think it harkens back to some of the basic tenets of hunter education. Know your target and beyond. We own that bullet, not only in its trajectory, but we own all its parts, including those left afield. We want our fellow hunters to first understand this relationship between lead and wildlife and then lead in conservation, like the generations of hunters before us. Morning, boss.
Morning.
Hawk food, glove.
Yep.
Telemetry's on.
Yep. And coffee.
And coffee. And a beautiful sunrise. We're here in Texas to tell the story of the relationship between lead and wildlife and hunting. And we get to do that by going on a white-tailed deer hunt. I'm gonna meet some new hunting partners, and hopefully we'll get to take home some of the cleanest and finest table fare known to man. But first, we're going hawking, one of the oldest forms of hunting on the books.
We're looking for scale quail or blue quail, and we're gonna see if we catch one with a trained peregrine falcon that I just call Mad, and he's an American peregrine falcon.
The story of the peregrine falcon is a phenomenal story to tell. It became apparent by the 1960s that the peregrine was in steep decline. East of the Mississippi, there were none, 0. And west of the Mississippi, they were in bad shape.
I have wanted to see this for ever since I heard it was a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to orchestrate here, so get ready.
There's no finer implement for hunting right there.
We identified what was causing that decline. It was DDT. DDT was a wonderfully effective insecticide. It was being sprayed. The insects were eaten by the songbirds were eaten by the predators, the falcons. The result was eggshell thinning. And those thinned eggshells would not support the weight of the falcon incubating their egg and break their eggs. Therefore, you're shutting down their reproductive capacity.
Grace, here. Good girl. There you go.
But once it was decided we weren't going to use DDT, we then had a problem with a major reduction in the total population, which led to the need and the desire to breed them in captivity, something that hadn't been done in quantity. Some of the founding members of the Peregrine Fund were those people that figured out how to do it at scale. Our founding board members were falconers, the very people that were breeding these birds in captivity. She's on point. There they go.
Oh, shit.
Whew.
Did she get a bird? No. Yeah, that was pretty close.
So the techniques used in falconry with the increased understanding and the scientific knowledge were combined to make for a successful recovery effort that resulted in the peregrine falcon taken off of the endangered species list in 1999.
For no one can deny that the restoration of the peregrine on 2 continents represents the largest and the most sustained effort ever mounted to save an endangered species. What we have accomplished together is truly phenomenal.
That is successful conservation. We see this time and time again across the globe. The condor is a great example. The captive breeding program was mounted and very successful, and led to the opportunity to reintroduce birds in 1992, first in California, and followed by 1996 when we began releasing birds in northern Arizona.
This is the condor release site / trapping site. So down below us we have our release and trapping pen. This is the place where the very first birds were released in 1996. And it's the place where we still release birds today.
Through the intensive study of the condor, tracking every individual in the population, we found that 54% of the diagnosed deaths were from lead poisoning. These birds are obligate scavengers, meaning they only consume the remains of dead animals, including the remains of shot animals left afield. We've learned something that was unknown to me as a lifelong hunter, that my choice of ammunition had a potential impact on scavenging wildlife.
Treating him for lead poisoning, he had elevated levels of blood lead. So we brought him in for a little bit of treatment. We're giving injections actually into the breast muscle. We can speed up the process of moving the lead through the system considerably with this chelation therapy.
We have a lot of repeat offenders. Of course, they don't have an affinity for lead, but it's so prevalent on the landscape that they don't really have a choice.
And sometimes those birds happen to have actual metallic fragments that often are lead in the digestive tract, so we can actually do an X-ray and make sure that it passes.
We see anything?
It looks clean.
Yes. Well, that's the first good step.
Exactly. That's excellent.
And so now we're assessing the post-chelation lead values. Maybe, if the lead has fallen enough, we can release the bird back into the wild.
Yes!
Nicely done.
48.3.
48.3. Yay.
The future's bright for condors, but it all hinges on the efforts of people like hunters. The single biggest thing that you can do to help is switch to non-lead. In 2005, we partnered up with Arizona Game and Fish, and we started this non-lead ammo program. On average, we've seen more than 85% of hunters participate here in the range of the condor. There you go. Heck yeah. But what I want to see is a species delisted. You know, if I can see that in my lifetime and be able to show my kids and my grandkids this species in the wild someday, that says it all right there.
What's the plan, Chris?
So we're gonna use this modified rain barrel system to collect the entirety of the bullets that we fire. One of the ways we demonstrate the differences between lead and non-lead is by shooting into a column of water.
Been hunting with a lead bullet for like 25 years or so.
Well, we're gonna show you what they look like compared to monolithics.
Okay, all right.
Fire it up. And that water column catches the entirety of the bullet, from the slug all the way down to the small fragments. It's our very own Mythbusters, right? We have our assumptions because we've hunted with it all of our lives. This gives you a little more in-depth understanding. So we'll start. I'll put a couple on paper just to make sure that I'm shooting decent. 93% of hunters in Arizona that participated in the voluntary program said that non-lead performed as well or better than lead.
And we're gonna shoot lead bullet first?
Yep, lead bullet on the left target.
Left target.
Making the transition to non-lead isn't necessarily simple. It can be hard to find in some stores, hard to identify on packaging. It can sometimes be more expensive, but sometimes even less expensive.
It's dead deer right there, Chris.
That's what we're after. All right, we're gonna shoot the left barrel now.
All right, so now time for the non-lead?
Now time for the non-lead. So this one is a Barnes bullet, and it's their long-range monolithic solid copper. This is the one I've been hunting with. Right target. One more on paper. They're almost touching, aren't they?
Almost touching.
Point is, both of these should be zeroed at 200, and I'm a 3/4 inch max off for both types. So not bad at all. All right, we'll go ahead and shoot the right barrel. All right. We're hoping to develop programs to make non-lead easier to find, easier to buy, and easier to use.
Do you want to look at the lead bullet?
Yeah, let's look at the lead bullet.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of lead.
Isn't it amazing? And you'd never see that.
There's a couple hundred pieces right in here.
Oh yeah, no, that's not uncommon. A couple hundred is the average. But grab that slug and pull it out of there. That slug is what you sometimes will recover in a carcass. And when you see that, you say, wow, my bullet did its job. And that's what you usually recover.
I just always assumed like
That's it.
that was the entirety of the bullet. I mean, I never even thought about all of that was still inside the animal.
Nor did any of us when we did this study. When we performed our deer study, the primary question was how many fragments can there possibly be from a single bullet that we harvested a deer with. We shot over 30 deer and we x-rayed them whole, gut piles, all the way down to the packaged meat. The average among all different types of ammunition was around 200 fragments. And the other interesting thing is from the path of the bullet through the carcass, those fragments, we found them as far as 15 inches away from that axis. And of course, this begs the question of, can you remove it all? We have the choice of whether or not we consume meat that may contain lead. Wildlife do not.
All right, you got that copper bullet?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
There you go. You want a bullet that doesn't fragment, that retains its mass. These are really good for that.
I don't want eagles to have to eat that, but hell, my wife would be pissed if she knew that I was feeding that to my kids.
The other way we demonstrate the differences between lead and non-lead is by taking ballistics gel. And ballistics gel is made to be a replica of shooting into flesh. And you can actually see the wound channel and you can see the lead as it expands through it.
All right, Joe, you're about to get leaded. Nice, great shot. Nice shot, Chris.
Thank you.
There is no life left in that gel. Cool, man.
It's fun, isn't it?
Let's go see what our lead bullet did.
And so as we line it up, from the point of impact, you can see how quickly the bullet opens up. It's lost mass, it peaked right there, and the bullet stopped in the second gel.
You can see little pieces of lead inside of there.
Yeah, and then when you x-ray it, of course, then it really magnifies it. You got one fragment, one petal.
Wow.
It maxed out in width about right here from my view.
Yeah.
And then it maintained it farther because it didn't lose mass. Even if you impact hide or bone, there's still a high probability that it's going to exit the carcass, leaving 2 wound channels to bleed out of.
Yeah, I'm sold, man.
Well,
let's go deer hunting, man.
I was going to say, the sun's getting lower.
Let's go deer hunting.
I've got my gun dialed in.
All right.
Ranging. That goes directly across. Got him. I see him. He's going off to the right. Damn.
My passion for the outdoors came from my wanderings, usually with a .22 in hand, and the wonder about wildlife and the way they operate. And the wandering led to my passion for wildlife.
There's an adult and a sub-adult northern harrier. They're out hunting for their breakfast this morning as well.
Once I found out you could study in wildlife management and choose species of interest, I found my place. That was really when wildlife truly became my career path.
Yeah, here comes the buck. I don't think that's the one we're looking for. I hate to pass up an opportunity. Just seemed like he's a youngster and maybe hasn't contributed enough to the gene pool. So I decided to hold off. I think there'll be a more mature buck that'll be a better one to take. Just to have the opportunities. Such a gift.
Minnesota is one of the Midwest states that has a very healthy population of bald eagles due to the Great Lakes. The Raptor Center admits 180 to 200 eagles every year, and as part of the admission process, we do diagnostics, just like we would for any other species. However, for bald eagles, we also check every single one for lead in their blood. What we found is that over 90% of bald eagles have lead residues in their blood.
Based on what I'm seeing, I'm already strongly suspicious of lead poisoning because it's not as bright and alert and feisty as it should be. And the way that it's breathing with this prolonged inspiratory phase, opening its mouth, making a bit of a wheezing sound, is unfortunately something that we see with the neurologic damage from lead poisoning. We're going to put this bird under anesthesia. We'll get a full physical exam done. We'll take some x-rays and we'll check some blood work and see if we have high lead levels as we're suspecting. So this bright white here is a metal opacity. That's very likely a projectile or some ammunition that this bird has ingested, likely lead given the bird's clinical signs. This bird has permanent neurologic damage from the exposure and it's not going to be able to recover or be releasable. So the most kind, considerate thing that we can do for it is to end its suffering and humanely euthanize it.
Using non-lead is an act that every individual hunter can take. That gets me excited because I want to see hunting sustained generation after generation after us.
This is the blind that my great-grandpa took me to whenever I was just a wee little kid. So we've got 30 years of hunting history in this blind, in this oak motte. I know exactly which trails the deer are going to come out of the woods. It's a good spot.
So to be brought here at the invitation of Papa Tate's grandson, it's pretty special. Look at this. They have swivel chairs that can support the weight of a 300-pound biologist. This is definitely something different.
You know, this is the only food patch in large area. So here in a little bit, we're gonna see a lot of deer start just piling into this field, which is great. Just need to watch our movements.
Yep.
Because I've been busted in this blind many times. Sometimes they'll come like right there, which is cool.
Yeah, here comes the buck.
I see 7 does over there. Is that what you see, Chris?
There's another one over there that's 8. And they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Hey, where that rub on that tree is? He's at the tree.
Yeah, he's rubbing on it. Hey, Chris, you have a bullet chambered, correct?
Yes, I do.
As soon as you get the shot, take it.
He's down.
Dude.
Thanks, Papa Tate.
This is a special place for me, man.
I'm so honored.
I'm glad I got to share it with you. And great shot. Great shot.
Yeah, go see this guy.
That is a big whitetail, my friend.
Oh my goodness. Ah.
That is a stud buck. That is everything you want right there.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. This will be the first whitetail meat that my grandson gets to eat.
That's a great deer, you know, to hunt. He's lived a good life, good long life. View that.
Thank you, buddy.
That was weak. Come on.
I grabbed you short. This isn't about just saving another endangered species. This is about being able to meet the challenges ahead. It's about taking care of our ecosystem and all the critters within it. It's about our ability to understand a system, identify a problem, and most importantly, deal with it.
We'll leave it, we'll put up a camera, see what comes in to eats it.
Perfect. Well, whatever does eat, it's gonna have a clean meal.
Yep, yep.
Leave that hope and that capacity and that potential with the future generation, and I think it'll be a place that I would like my grandchildren to see.